Hello and welcome to Midnight Scribe's Creative Minds, where we speak to the best of the bronies and discover what makes them tick. Man, is it good to be back in the game, fillies and gentle colts. I have been a very sick pony recently, what with the flu and tonsillitis trying to annoy me over the last few weeks. I haven't been able to record until now, but I'm back, everyone. Midnight Scribe is back behind the mic, ready for some interviewing madness. Now, we've got a great guest this week, and next week, over. I have a wisdom tooth extraction booked in. You know that saying, you open your mouth and trouble comes your way? I finally get it. I open my mouth and people try to stick things in there. Drills, illnesses. Where are the cupcakes and chocolate I want? Why do I have to get drills? Well, I'm back for now and I'm happy because we have a fantastic guest on Creative Vibes this week. Someone who I've wanted on for a rather long time. Now, she's a YouTuber with a sparkling personality who routinely kicks my butt in video games whenever we play and sees the bronies and the stars in our Brony Brilliance series. I am truly delighted to welcome Lupina Ryder, aka Silver Starling, to the show. Silver, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's an honor to be here.
And it's an honor to have you on, Silver. No joke, I've been wanting to do this interview for a long, long time, and I'm so glad we have finally managed to get you onto the show. I'm just sorry that it has to be while I have a cough, because I'm still recovering from my tonsillitis. Tonsillitis is gone, my throat is fine, but unfortunately it is left behind the cough. So if I hack throughout this interview, do not worry. I haven't got the plague, I haven't got the Black Death, I am not dying. Midnight Scribe is fine, it's just a cough.
Don't worry. As long as you take it easy, that's all I'm worrying about.
Oh, listen, don't worry. It's a Friday afternoon when I'm recording this. I have my drink here. I have got dinner ready for me for the room afterwards. It has been lovely here in Scotland. It has been a sunny day. Of course I'm relaxing. I am absolutely fine, so don't worry. I'm taking very, very good care of myself. But firstly, I'd just like to say, Silver, welcome to the show. Enjoy yourself. Do not worry about anything here. This is going to be a nice, light-hearted half an hour of minor hijinks and very bad puns, if I think of any.
Oh yeah, it's going to be better than the half an hour Civ game where it's all blood, barbarians, and death.
That is basically our gaming sessions on Civ. That is true. Although I haven't said that, I do very little to death. I tend to be a bit of a pacifist. I'm not very good at the whole death, hack thing.
No, unlike a few other players we go with.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking of particular names.
Yup.
Sorry, that was a slightly tickly throat there. But back to the interview and back away from any gaming politics that are happening. If we think of any of our games, we can chat throughout. But I have to ask, now, I know you as Silver, I know you as other names as well, but I know that on YouTube your name is Lupina Ryder, but you're also known as Silver Starling. So why do you happen to have two very distinct names?
That is actually a funny story. So, really long time ago, when little Silver Starling was little, I wanted to get into YouTube. But whenever I tried typing in a name, it was all taken. So at the time, I was starting to write the novel that I was writing. And in the novel, there were these winged wolves that I called Lupineers. So I tried typing in that name and nothing came up. You know, everything's like, yeah, there's nothing here. So I typed in, okay, the Lupineer Rider. And I thought, I'll just change it when I get older, you know, if I ever need to change it. Turns out I have no idea how to change my name on YouTube. Fun fact. I might figure out one day, but the Lupineer Rider was just a name that I picked because it connected to the novel I'm writing, and it was just the only name I could think of that was not being taken by YouTube already.
Well, hey, listen, that's as good a reason as any. And actually, I can show you how to change your name, actually, because I've done it a few times on my channel, and not the Highland Bronies channel. I've got a personal channel where I'm trying to do stuff on there. Or maybe by the time this episode comes out, I might have actually done the stuff I said I was going to do. Who knows? But yeah, it's easy to sort out. I'll show you how to do it. Although I must admit, I made a mistake because I've changed it a few times recently to different things, and it is decided that I've got to keep one of them for the moment until I think they put like a 6 month lockout or something like that. So I can't remember. So
Yeah.
at the moment, I am stuck on YouTube as Kyle McCall, which is great because that's my name. But but you know, I mean, I suppose it's better that I have that name and I'm not called Barry Olsen or something like that. I don't know. Just by the way, if there is a
Yeah, no,
Barry,
I'll probably take your advice then. But yeah, no, the Lupinier Rider was just a name that came up because it was needed. And then everybody else is like, oh, what's your channel? And I go, the Lupinier Rider. And they're like, the whaty now? What did you just say? Do you speak in some tongues?
it's a very distinctive name. I mean, I will say that. You know, and it, you know, I suppose that serves to your advantage because it is a very like Lupin ear, like Lupin. That rings a bell. Lupin. I keep thinking Harry Potter, but I know it's not Harry Potter. I
Oh,
don't
no,
know.
yeah, Harry Potter with Lupin.
Oh, it is Harry Potter. Oh, good, right. I still keep my geek points in. That's good, right. I was thinking, like, is there a Lupin? I think it's Lupin. Is it Lupin? I don't want to admit it's Lupin.
Lupus is the Latin word for wolf. And then I can't remember where it was, but Lupin was either a plant or a nickname for a wolf. And I just stuck with that.
Alrighty. Well, I'll tell you what. There was something you mentioned actually a minute ago that I did want to touch on because when I was digging up, you know, doing my little research about you, I actually learned that you've been working on a novel, and you actually just briefly mentioned it there. So, listen, look, as a fellow writer, please spill the beans.
That's actually a long story if you're all right with that.
Oh, listen, like we've
Um,
got plenty of time on Creative Vibes.
well then, this novel actually, as weird as it sounds, this novel has been going on for almost, I think, 9 to 10 years.
How long is this novel?
Well, that's the thing, and it sounds like, oh, it's a 2,000 page book. But what it was is that when I was making the novel, I first started out with saying, like, okay, it's winged wolves, it's humans, and in the world, these winged wolves and humans can bond together to form riders. And I'm like, yeah, this is great. And then halfway through writing it, I'm like, well, there's other cultures and elements. What am I going to write about when I have to talk about them? And I was just like, oh, I'll get to it then. And then I had to stop myself and it's like, no, if you're going to write this novel, you got to know all the characters. So I have spent the last 6 years researching as much as I can and building the culture. Everything from where they eat to what they eat, their lifestyle, their clothing, things like great wars and battles, heroes, history, laws, everything I can. Drawing it out, writing it out, thinking it out. And then now that I have it, the novel is about 200 pages long. It's getting into I'd say the last third, and then it shouldn't be that much longer. Then it's going to be the fun time of editing it and getting it all set up. But yeah, no, these years have been world building, language building, and everything else in between. So that when I get to this other parts in the land, other parts of the cultures, I know exactly how they're going to be.
Well, I mean, the amount of effort that you're clearly going into the world building side of things, I mean, that is, you know, that is incredibly inspiring as a writer because I know how tough it can be. But because I mean, any sort of creator, anyone who's creating anything, whether you know it's writing, art, music, talk shows, whatever, you know, there is a creative process to it, and it can be quite hard to get the format of whatever it is you're doing right, and particularly in world building where you're having to not only craft a story, but you have to craft the world around it and kind of go right. Well, here's our characters, but if the world they're in doesn't match what they're doing, you know, there's always a disconnect. So you know, world building is such an important part of it. So I can totally identify how it could take it could take a while to build it up. But you mentioned you're 200 pages into it, like how, and you're heading into what is it, the final third you were saying?
Yeah, so I've gone past the beginning part, and this is all handwriting, so I know I'm going to have to re-edit a lot of this when I retype it up. But so far, it's about 3 books long. And there are like a lot of scratches or notes like, no, no, add this in, or add this in, or no, this character's name this, not this. But I'm expecting this to take maybe another year longer due to the fact that I have dyslexia, so writing and reading takes a lot longer than usual. But I'm thinking the rough draft will take another year. And once it's done, it's going to be edited by a few people who've promised to look it over and read it over for me. And then hopefully, if everything works out right, I should actually be able to go look for a publisher soon.
Oh yes, when you get to that's the fun part, when you've got the book done and then you've got to try and search for the agent. That's when the fun really begins, because I've tried doing that myself for an earlier novel I did, and it's it's a you build up a nice email list of rejections. You just build up a nice selection going, this is nice. This reminds me of my job interview situation. Just like rejections here, rejections everywhere. But then you get that one that you find.
Yeah.
Once you get that one, you're sorted. And, I have got... Sorry, excuse me. I have much faith in you. And I'm certainly looking forward to reading it once it's actually done. And, keep me posted on how the story goes.
I will. I think the one thing, and I admit the one thing it might have going for it, is I've looked everywhere. I have looked in every story, every video game, every movie, every folklore I can find. I have not found a single winged wolf. Not one. Like, the only ones I have found is, I hear there's like a glitch in the video game that you can get a winged wolf or some kind of winged wolf. A character in a book has the nickname Winged Wolf. And then the only other thing I've heard is that in another video game, there's a feature, if you buy a lot of coins, you can add wings to a wolf. But they don't exactly work so well. But there is no media I found that has winged wolves. So I'm hoping, if possible, the publisher might go like, oh, this is something new. Maybe this could work for us. But who knows? They could be the exact opposite. And it's like, something new, get the fire, the flamethrowers. We're going to burn this thing alive. I don't know, because, people with new things are like, run away.
Oh, listen, look, I am totally with you. But I tell you what, I wanted to actually go back a bit to your YouTube side of the things, because I know one of your series, certainly the one that took off in the last wee while, was your Brony Brilliant series, and you did a trilogy of videos on Eliora, Silver Quill, and Dr. Wolf as of this recording time. Now, I have two questions about this series. One, why did you do one on the almighty Midnight Scribe with his fro, his bad jokes, and his Scottishness? And secondly, and more importantly, how did the concept of an in-depth series on famous big bronies come about?
Well, I can answer both. So for Midnight Scribe, I actually didn't know about you until about 2 months in. And then someone's like, hey, look at this. This is a really amazing thing. And I'm like, okay, what is it? And he showed me the Highland Bronies. And I'm like, wow, this is really, really cool. So I was actually like, okay, when I get time, I'm going to put that down. And then I completely forgot about it. So I apologize, but no, you were one of the people where I'm like, yeah, I'm eventually going to go out and ask them. And how this whole thing started actually started from an artist, and I call her a friend. We haven't talked in a long, long, long time, but an artist who I watch on DA. And she is a very talented artist. Her style, her name's Story Pony, and her style is mostly Tim Burton-esque like. So it's a dark, twisted kind of story on MLP, but it still keeps the comedy, it still keeps the fun times, but it's almost a sinister aspect of MLP. And she would make these beautiful drawings, but nobody would actually come to see her work, or at least not a good chunk of them. And she started to get discouraged in her art, and she wanted to give up. And I'm like, no, I gotta think of something to cheer her up. And I just told her, you've got an amazing style. Keep going and keep going up. And she was still down. It didn't really help her. But I'm like, maybe there's a way I could give her a signal boost. And then maybe it could help her out. And that's when Brony Brilliance started to get formed. And I started to think, like, maybe there's a way to get people who aren't as well known and people who are as well known a little bit more attention. And not because they're horse famous, not because they're these big names in the community, or not because they need attention, or not because they need horse fame. It's because they do good work. either inside the community or outside the community, that they have a great talent that they can shine like the stars. And that's where Brony Brilliance started to get its roots. And then came the lovely task of sending message after message after message. And some people actually thinking I was a robot quite a few times. They would see their friends would get this message and they're like, "You're a robot." I'm like, "No, ma'am, I'm not a robot. If I was a robot, I couldn't respond to you. But I'm serious. I want to get you on the show. Do we have a deal?" And they would say yes. There were actually a few that said no, but that didn't hurt my pride. I'm like, "Okay, no worries," and I go off. Um, but that's actually a reason why Brony Brilliance not only has done, it's gotten people's attention, but it's also had to take a long, long break. Because what I like to do is I like to make sure that the people get the kind of video they'd want, meaning I have to wait for them to tell me what song they want, what pose they want for their character, what they would like for me to talk about, what they would not like for me to talk about. So it's a lot of back and forth. And for some people who don't check like inboxes or other things, it's a long, long wait. And actually, there was this one person who I just got off from who originally was going to have a video done of theirs, but they told me like, no, I'm not doing MLP stuff anymore. So I took them off the list, and now it's actually started to get going again where I can speed through this, because now the first 3 people have started to talk with me again saying, yes, this is what I want. No, this is not what you can talk about. Yes, this is what I want. So I'm really, really hoping soon that this can get set up as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm. And make it a bit more regular again now that you've kind of worked through some of the kinks.
Oh yeah, I admit, that's the biggest question I've had on the channel is, who's the next Brony Brilliance? Where's the Brony Brilliance? Have you given up on Brony Brilliance? And I'm like, no, it's getting there.
The content is coming. The content is coming. Well, I'll tell you what, I might as well just ask the question then. What is coming up next on Brony Brilliance?
Well, with a few tweaking, it's going to be groups of 3. So how the bronies are categorized is that they're grouped into 3s. So not to be like, we are going to split the bronies apart, you cannot mingle. That's not what we're trying to do. But what I'm trying to do is make it so that it's easier just to see different styles. So people can basically take a look at what they're doing, what they've got, everything else. So the very first person who's coming up is actually somebody who, funny enough, I just mentioned, which was Story Pony. She's the very first one that's going to be on the list. And then after her, if I remember correctly, is Kilala97. She does a lot of generational artwork, some beautiful anatomy work, and some brilliant coloring. And then the final artist that's going to be looked at for the first group of artists is another person that I know who's called Earthsong9405. She's a brilliant artist again, great work, incredible detail in her work, absolutely beautiful and gorgeous poses. And then after the artists will come the musicians, some bloggers, I believe some sculpture works next, then video games, PMBs, and quite a few after that. And then once the cycle's done, it's going to come right back to the analysis.
And just continue on from there until eventually you've done everyone.
Yeah, because there is a bit of brilliance in everybody's work. No matter what it is, everybody's got a little bit of brony brilliance in them. And the project is going to be not only showing big names, but little names as well, so that people can see that, yes, there is brilliance in the community. There is a lot of negativity, there is a lot of hate that sometimes comes up, but there is a little bit of brilliance as well in every little corner you look at.
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, talking of Brony Brilliance and people in the fandom, and particularly the fandoms as well, I mean, I know, for example, when we do creative vibes, we generally focus on, people who are in the pony fandom. That's kind of what we do, go figure. But, and like you said, everyone in this fandom has a bit of brony brilliance in it, and, I kind of maintain in a similar respect that anyone in this fandom can have creative vibes, and as corny as that sounds. And Sugar Dove, delete that if that's too corny, or Celestia, have mercy on my soul. But but the thing is as well that all fandoms have creative vibes and a sort of equivalent of bronies to them. And I know that your ever series, Theories of the Thoughts, sorry, is actually about another fandom, which is Steven's Universe predominantly.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a little bit green around the ears when it comes to Steven's Universe. I've yet to watch it. I do intend to. Don't panic, anyone in the commenters. I do intend to actually get there. It's just I'm useless when it comes to watching television shows. It takes me a while. But so why don't you tell me a little bit, Silver, about as an analyst for Steven's Universe, what are the interesting things to analyze about the show? What are the juicy parts?
I think the fact that's brilliant about Steven Universe, and I am really surprised not a lot of other analysts are going after Steven Universe, is because with MLP, we have been in a show that basically, let's admit, has a lot of continuity errors in its early years and doesn't pull as big things in there. Like, we may get something from a few episodes back, maybe, but they're each kind of stories that can go off on their own. You don't really have to watch any season in order except up until season 4, when you'd have to have watched the end of season 3. But I think what's really amazing of Steven Universe is they take the smallest details, the tiniest background images, and that becomes a whole episode. Like, they took a monster that we thought was not important in the very first episode, and they brought it back as its whole episode to reveal what are the corrupted gems. And it's just so funny, the details that for an analyst, it's like a treasure trove because there are so many things you can theorize, predict, find, break down, and then come up with. And honestly, a lot of theories fans come up with actually turn out to be true. Like, I think the biggest one that everyone's like for all of season 1 was that, spoiler alert, this one character had something very, 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 very special about them. And I just realized I don't want to spoil this for you, Kyle. So I'll just say spoiler alert that there is a main character in season 1 that has something incredibly special about them. And it was little subtle hints. It was her look. It was how she was presented. And everyone's like, that's gotta be it. That's gotta be it. And then the show staff revealed it. And there was a scream on Tumblr. Like, I have never seen people on Tumblr get so freaked out about something. And it was just the day this episode was released.
Oh, but it's great when you get something like that and the whole fandom kind of, has a sort of shriek of joy all at the same time, that kind of, that great moment where everyone just unites together because, and fandoms are great things, but, you get your different camps and different, for, different characters or different beliefs in the show and all those sort of things. And then you get something that just unites the whole fandom back up again.
Oh, yeah, it's like in Game of Thrones with the Purple Wedding. So many screams of joy were released that day.
I will have to take your word for it. I have never watched an episode of Game of Thrones. I have avoided that show very well for the last 5 or 6 years.
All right.
Don't ask me how I did it. It wasn't intentional. I kind of just missed it. I mean, I remember when the show originally came out, I was going, oh, there's Sean Bean. Next season. Oh, there's no Sean Bean. All right. And that was basically that's my association with Game of Thrones. But taking it back to the ponies, actually, I do have a couple of our usual basic questions we like to ask our guests about the pony stuff. Starting off with, of course, what is your favorite character in the show?
Okay, so this one is probably going to get a lot of people either surprised or angry with me. So thankfully, this is a place that no one's going to try clawing my eyes out. My favorite character is actually none of the ponies. Like, not a single pony on the show is one of my favorites.
Alrighty. But who is the favorite? Who is it you're stalling?
It's, it's Spike. Spike, Discord, and Little Strongheart.
And they're all good choices. So you're not gonna get kicked for that. You're fine.
I actually have had people get really angry at me for saying any of those 3 characters.
Really?
Oh yeah, that was a fun day. Oh my god. Because basically all of them are like, why are you watching MLP if you don't like one of the ponies? And I explained I don't watch MLP for the ponies, and then they just went into a feeding frenzy of piranha.
Oh oh boy, crikey, they must have turned piranhas that day. Because we've had a few guests on actually, and Discord, for example, is one of the characters that does repeatedly come up as a sort of favorite character, and I think Spike has popped up one or twice, or at the very least in the sort of top running. I mean, I find it a bit odd that people would be that upset at the idea of someone going, well, I'm not the biggest fan of the ponies. I do happen to like this character and that character, and it's like they enjoyed the show. They enjoy a different character. What's the issue?
I don't know. I guess I've talked to the wrong group of people. Um, it was very much like, they say I like Applejack, they say they like Rainbow Dash, Pinkie Pie, Twilight, all the ponies, and then when I say like, no, I don't like any of them, and they said not even Fluttershy, and I'm like, well, she's okay, but she's not my favorite, and that's when it just was, oh shoot.
Then war was declared.
Yeah, and I'll admit, like, the ponies, they're nice, but they're not the reason, as I said, that I stayed in the show. And the reason I stayed is because of all these brilliant mythical creatures. I like to see how they're used, how they were altered, how they were changed. I'm more a fan of Chrysalis and the Changelings than I am with someone like Derpy or someone like Fluttershy. Because we don't know that much about them, and they're just so much more interesting than the Pegasi, the Earth Pony, or the unicorns.
Yeah, I mean they're definitely a little bit more mysterious on the basis that their their species and their particular roles don't get explored anywhere near as much because you follow the ponies around all the time. You don't tend to
Mm.
get as much insight to the other ones. So, as a writer, I kind of identify with that as well. I do find because it's that thing of like the less you know about something, the more sometimes it could be the more interested you are in it because there's an element of mystery there and an element of why are they like this, where do they come from, world building stuff. The same thing you and I enjoy.
Yeah, or the fact, and this one's also gotten people like, what? When I tell them, for example, in the Party Pooper episode, I was not siding with the ponies in that episode. I'm like, you ponies, you're being jerks. You should apologize to the yaks immediately. And I was actually on the side of the yaks. I'm like, why are you ponies being like this way to the yaks?
Oh yeah, and I've got vague memories of that episode. I do have I can't remember the full ins and outs, but I do remember roughly about that episode. Sorry, Scribe's got a cough.
It's okay.
Oh, why I
Um,
hate this cough. Why do you bother me so?
Aw, it's all right. Tell you what, you can take a drink and I'll explain about the yaks. Because funny enough, whenever I tell this to people, they get very angry with me, or at least they get very surprised, and then it turns into a feeding frenzy. What happened in it is that the yaks come over to a diplomatic meeting. They want to make friends, and the ponies bring out what they call authentic yak food. And then the yaks start to get upset and they start to smash things. And throughout the episode, this happens. The ponies say they have authentic stuff from their country, and the yaks test it. They say it's not perfect, and they start to break and destroy things. And then Pinkie Pie goes all the way to Yakistan, meets this little tiny yak. He has fun. She gets shipped all the way back to Ponyville. And then she realizes, we don't need to make their culture. We should show them our culture. And then they're perfectly fine. But throughout the episode, every time I've seen someone talk about that, they actually get really upset with the yaks. And they're like, no, the yaks are being jerks and they're absolutely horrible. And I'm like, no, 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 no. What are you talking about? The ponies are the ones that were the jerks. And I guess it's funny enough. I've been to a lot of different countries before. I've been to France and England. I've been to France, the United States, the United Kingdoms, Denmark, and a few other places. And just being a Canadian going over there, and when you tell people you're a Canadian, you kind of start to sympathize with the yaks. Because what will happen is that they say, oh, you're from Canada, you like the cold, turn up the AC, it'll be uncomfortable for you. And I'm like, I'm fine, sir. I'm perfectly fine. Or they'll be like, oh, you like maple syrup? Come on, get the maple syrup. And it's like, no, sir, I don't want maple syrup on my salad. It's okay.
Yeah, it's that thing of like, I mean, I can sort of identify as well because I'm from Scotland, and the sort of stereotypes that follow us when we go around as well. Like, I remember one time. I'll actually tell you a little story. 6 years ago, I went on a charity trip to Romania, but on the way to Romania, we had to stop over in Luton, on the outskirts of London, and so while we were waiting for our flight, which was going to be the next day, we decided to go for a little explore in Luton. And now one of my friends one of my friends back then who was very Scottish, and I'll leave it there, had decided that he was going to go into Luton, this predominantly English and black community, in a full Scottish kilt garb thing, like the whole kind of like, if you think of Scotland, and shortbread, what do you think of? You think of this guy. He went into the store, and he went into this charity store, and I kid you not, the sorry, I know what's coming. He went in, and I went in with him, with another friend actually, and we were looking around the charity store, and then they started singing, I think it was "Old Flowers Scotland" at him, while he's like standing there, beetroot. While I'm just kind of going, oh good lord, I'm cringing, but this is so funny. I like this because it was like, that was a case of the stereotype. Like, he brought the stereotype onto himself. He deserved what he got. But it's like, I know what you mean in terms of like, when you visit places and you say you're from a certain place, and people presume particular things about you, because like Scotland's stereotypes are, we're angry, we're drunk, we don't eat vegetables. There's several stereotypes, I'm sure, as well. I'm just going for the one or two off the top of my head, but I can entirely identify with that. The fact that I drink whiskey, don't eat vegetables, and I'm Scottish is neither here nor there. But I'll tell you.
With the yaks, I felt the same thing. I'm like, the yaks are coming from their country, and they want to see pony stuff. And if you're claiming you have yak stuff, it's basically a slap in the face that you're mocking them when you say you have their stuff and you know their culture so well. And whenever I see that episode, I'm like, I feel so sorry for you, yaks. I apologize on behalf of the ponies.
Oh, definitely. There's a few episodes like that where it's written so that you should favor the ponies, but actually it's kind of a bit of a broken Aesop, and actually you kind of feel for the other characters, because it's been like, I remember the what was it, the super speedy cider squeezy 6,000 episode, with the Flim Flam brothers, and they go for like, the Flim Flam brothers go and try and take over Apple Acres, but they get a bad deal. So, and it looks like that, but then Granny Smith brings them into this competition with them to try and produce a cider, and if they fail, they'll lose the farm. And then at the end, Applejack says something like, which is right in the letter, it was something like, "Dear Celestia, here's what I've learned. I have learned nothing." And it was like, why not learn the fact that Granny Smith was clearly a bit of a hothead, and should not have gone into a competition with someone where she knew she could have lost everything. You know what I mean? It's like, there's points that happen, but anyhow, I digress. I do have one or two final questions actually before I wrap up, because I've realised that because you and I are good friends and we're very good yackers, we are going well over our time limits. But I'll tell you what, there is actually one question I wanted to ask, and I was going to touch on it earlier on, but we were yakking too well and I didn't want to add it in, which is that, because we were talking there about other people in the fandom, their response to the particular favourite characters you have and how they react to that. What are your opinions on the Brony fandom?
My opinion on the Brony fandom, nobody's ever asked me that, so this is going to be interesting. Funny enough, it's kind of like what I have on the Steven Universe fandom. Because as much as people are like, oh, the Steven Universe fandom, they're great, we've done some messed up stuff. Like, some people in the Steven Universe fandom have done some messed up stuff. And if anybody's interested, I definitely say look at the Tumblr posts, look at what has happened. But the Brony fandom specifically, I honestly think it's great. I know people are like, oh, it's bad. There's bad people in here. Hate this person. Hate this. Honestly, they're not. It's a great place. We started out as love and tolerance, but it didn't work out as that. And it now works into an actual community. Are there people who are obsessed? Sure. Are there people who are kind of like, I don't care? Sure. But that's what makes a fandom. We started out as thinking everything's good, everything's right, but it didn't turn into that. It turned into a legitimate fandom. Do I think that some places could be improved? Yes, I do think maybe if people are a bit more open to, like, this is somebody's opinion, but you don't need to focus on that. And even with the recent horse famous controversy going on, again, yes, be excited that we're in a fandom, but understand that it is a fandom, and it's just for fun. Eventually, the fandom will die, and eventually we'll all have to either stick with the MLP fandom, or we'll have to move on. But I think that the fandom in general has done some great stuff. It continues to do some great stuff. And sure, we may have some potholes, some hills, some turns and zigzags on the road of the fandom, but I honestly think it's a great place. And I love being in it.
Well, you know what? I think that is a great positive point to wrap up the interview on, because that is a very poignant point, and I totally agree with you. You know, the fandom is a great place, regardless of flaws, and I hope it continues for many, many more years. Because without it, I would never have met yourself and so many other great people. So, and hopefully we'll meet many more new people in the future, and especially you guys as well who are watching. You'll be able to meet loads of cool people in the show as well. But I tell you what, we will wrap up the show there just now. Thank you so much for coming on, Silver. I hope it seems you've had a good time.
I have had a great time, and again, it has been an honor to be here.
And it's been an honor to have you on. Like, thank you so much for coming on. It has been a blast. I really enjoyed this, despite the fact that I've had this stupid cough. This is ridiculous. I tell you what, I hope I'm recording the next episode this hasn't developed into some sort of like smoker's drawl or something. You know, I don't want to do the next interview going, "Hello, my name is Midnight Scribe, and today I'm interviewing." You know what I mean? I don't want that.
Well, at least then you could go for the dark, mysterious type of an archetype.
Either that or there's just going to be a load of comments in the video saying this guy needs some strepsils. But I do have one final question for you, Silver, which is, where can we send our followers to find you?
The best way to find me, if they want to contact me, is on DA. I do respond to things on YouTube. However, I actually like to get notes from people. And honestly, if you have someone you want on Brony Brilliance, send them my way. The only thing I would say is, I do have a lot of people signed up, but if you have someone you know that is on Brony Brilliance, or you'd want to put someone on Brony Brilliance, send a note on DA, and I will get back to you a lot faster than I will on YouTube.
Alright, yeah, and what we'll do is we'll put all the links to Silver's work in the description below, so you'll be able to go check her out. So if you've got any suggestions for Brony Brilliance, or you want to send her some nice notes, nice messages, that is the place to go. But we shall wrap up the show there just now. My thanks to Silver Starling for coming on tonight. My thanks to you guys for watching. And if you want to get in contact with us, well, of course, we have all the various sites we're on now. I mean, I've said it for 3 seasons now. I think you probably get the gist. We've got our Facebook, we've got our YouTube, we've got our Twitter, we have our Tumblr. And, you can get in contact with us through all of them. We also have an email address as well. highlandbronies@hotmail.com, I believe, is the address. But it'll all be down in the description below. So, if you've got any constructive criticism for the show, any positive things you want to say, fan mail, those sort of things, we'd love to hear from you. If perhaps you're a creator in the fandom as well and you'd like to perhaps be on the show, just get in contact with us. Send us some links to your work. We will see what we can do. But we will wrap up the show there for tonight, Phillies and General Colts. My thanks to Silver for being on the show. Thanks again to you guys for watching. And the final word from Midnight Scribe is, as always, please subscribe.